Welcome to Leading Life and Leading People. My name is Rachel Cannon, and I'm an organizational development and HR practitioner and consultant who works to help individuals and organizations unlock more energy and capacity to do good and work together to meet needs. But being a mom, a nerd, an athlete, a friend, and a member of various communities, I've come to know that everyone can be a leader. Leadership is about bringing together the strengths and potential we all have as human beings and doing the work to sustain and grow the energy and capacity of everyone involved. Whether that's you as a leader in your own life or you as a leader in family, with friends, community, or in the workplace, you can have a role to play in bringing life to your circle of the world. There's so much we can do together. If you have ever tried to get another human being to get something done, you've probably had this thought. Why can't you just do it? Don't you see how important it is? Everything would just be easier if you would just cooperate. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I've had that thought, it's usually not with a warm and fuzzy feeling in my heart. It's usually connected to frustration, judgment about their motivations, and a desire to just push to the end of a task, to get something done. People seem to be the obstacle to productivity in those moments. If they would just get out of the way, everything would be so much easier. There seems to be a disconnect between working with people and productivity. But let's stop and examine that assumption. What I'm really saying in that moment is that people are in my way, and I would get a lot more done if everyone would just get out of my way. I start to make judgments about why they're in my way, about their motivations, their capabilities, and sometimes about their worth. Are any of the assumptions that I make in that moment accurate? What if the disconnect is really in my relationship to both productivity and people as a leader? Well, let's talk about 5 things we can do to integrate productivity and people as leaders, as team members, and human beings. First is to constantly remind yourself that you're working with a human being. We've been trained to think of people as objects as we work or interact in getting tasks done. Business, professional, and popular mentalities are all about how to get what you want, how to influence people, how to steer them towards the outcomes we want. But all of that leads us to treat those around us as objects to be managed, rather than people with their own needs, their own capabilities, and agency. In his book Dangerous Love, Chad Ford talks about what he's learned about transforming conflict and the role of how we see others. Because, after all, conflict is almost a constant when we're working with other human beings, even if we just usually avoid it. So Chad Ford is a professor and a consultant for global conflict resolution initiatives. He said, quote, "When I see you as the enemy, the other, or someone who is opposing me, almost any form of conflict avoidance, management, or resolution is unlikely to produce lasting results. However, if my perception of the relationship changes, the entire conflict dynamic has the ability to transform into something that can bring hope, collaboration, and even peace. Conflict transformation happens whenever one person in a relationship or group lets go of the fear of conflict and the fear of the people he or she is in conflict with. And it fundamentally shifts from seeing people as objects to seeing them as people. When that shift occurs, the ability to engage in problem solving and create conditions where people can live, thrive, and collaborate together dramatically improves." Unquote. Why should I care so much about transforming conflict and collaboration if it seems to always lead to conflict? Simply because we can produce and create a lot more and better together than individually. And because when we don't transform conflict, it always ends up as an obstacle rather than an opportunity to grow and innovate. So the first thing we can do is transform how we see others. It'll change how we approach, see, and get curious about how to move forward. One example of the importance of this happened for me when I was working as an HR strategy manager in a global company. At the request of the senior VP of HR, we had developed a communication strategy to move the global HR team forward together in learning and envisioning our role as an HR function. So the senior VP and global team members had been involved in developing this strategy, so we didn't expect big pushback. But there was one regional HR director who simply said they did not want to use the strategy as it was communicated. My first reaction was to start down the path of, okay, how do I push this through? And of course, in that moment, my mind was making all kinds of assumptions about their motivation, their resistance, their reasoning. But I stopped and I realized they really had no idea why they were pushing back. That momentary pause also allowed me to remember something else. This director was capable and effective, and a person who probably had a reason for pushing back. That shift enabled me to move forward productively to transform the conflict. So we start by reminding ourselves that people are people. Number 2 is to get curious about why someone is thinking, acting, or feeling as they do. None of us just wake up and say, I'm going to be unreasonable today. While we all have moments where we may look back and say we were being unreasonable or irrational, things that we regret, we don't consciously act without a reason. That means that the person that you're working with has a reason that they are thinking, acting, or feeling as they do. It doesn't mean that they're right, but it also doesn't mean you're right. Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist, talks in his book Think Again about the power of humility, curiosity, and questions when we're working to discover someone's motivation. Quote, motivational interviewing starts with an attitude of humility and curiosity. We don't know what might motivate someone else to change, but we're genuinely eager to find out. The goal isn't to tell people what to do. It's to help them break out of overconfidence cycles and see new possibilities. Our role is to hold up a mirror so they can see themselves more clearly and then empower them to examine their beliefs and behaviors. That can activate a rethinking cycle in which people approach their own views more scientifically. They develop more humility about their knowledge, doubt in their convictions, and curiosity about alternative points of view, unquote. As we get curious about others, it's important to get curious and humble about ourselves as well. Ask, what do I not know? How do I know what I think I know is accurate? As I became curious about what was going on with the regional HR director, my conversations with them shifted into questions to ask rather than points to persuade them of. So after we see people as people, get curious about who they are, what they think, and the way they see the world. Number 3, we ensure common purpose. One of the most common reasons we resist taking action is because it seems to us that it has no purpose. As humans, we want to engage in meaningful action. When something seems to lack meaning, we give it little time or attention. A common reaction to misaligned purpose is to simply try to control behavior. But controlling behavior will only further disengage people from the task you're trying to do. So first, you ensure that you have a shared purpose. Ask others about what is most important to them. Share why the task is important to you and its purpose in your mind. Most often, you'll find that a shared purpose that results in collaborating together will come from that conversation. You might work together in a new or slightly different way than what you had planned on before, but it will be a way that allows for shared purpose. As I spoke to the regional HR director, we discovered that we shared the same vision of how to move the team forward. He just wanted to do it in a slightly different way. We discussed how to support and align the tools provided with the strategy that we now knew that we both supported. We came to a place where we had a common purpose and knew how to work together on that purpose. Fourth is create a space of belonging and growth. Often the reason someone will resist action is because they aren't quite sure how to move forward with it. As a leader or a group member or just a friend, create a space where people are supported even in moments where they might not feel competent. Have an honest conversation about the skills or the support that's needed to accomplish the task, and make it okay to learn and grow. None of us are perfect, and we're all learning and growing. Consistently express appreciation, though, for the skills and the capabilities that others do bring, and ways in which they might support you with their different strengths. When I started the conversation with the HR director, they started with a confrontational tone. When I acknowledged that they knew their team better than I did, and that I wanted to understand their needs and learn from them, the whole conversation shifted. When we're trying to drive tasks forward, we often get stuck in competition rather than creating a space where we learn and create together. Agency, or the ability to choose to act, is a key factor in motivation. Creating a space of belonging and growth shifts the focus from winning a situation to choosing to create something together. So create a space where everyone's voice matters and everyone is needed. Fifth is to monitor energy and capacity. Sometimes resistance occurs simply because the other person or team is exhausted. They don't have much left to give. They might be overwhelmed. They might be otherwise unable to give the attention and energy to your task that's necessary. When we start by seeing people as people, we also need to end with that. Be willing to have honest conversations about energy and capacity, and consistently support others in managing their energy and capacity. Often, when we make it okay to be human, that person is going to be willing to give even more after they've gotten a chance to recharge. They know they can trust themselves with you. Now, sometimes a task might be urgent, and that's okay, but acknowledging the current levels of energy or capacity and agreeing on what is essential and what is doable is going to be key to maintaining that trust. Now, as we think about these 5 things, will doing them make it so we never have conflicts with others? Or will it mean that you never need to make a decision when the team is paralyzed? Or that you never need to take something on yourself when others just can't give it attention right now? No. But when we start with the understanding that people are not the obstacles to productivity, but its source, we will more consistently create productive, innovative, and thriving teams. When you see and treat people as people, the trust that others have in you will grow and will be the foundation of doing more than you can possibly do with just a pure focus on task and productivity. So try it out. Start with seeing people as people rather than tasks, and let me know what happens. Let me know how it goes. What do you discover as you try it out? And join us next time as we keep talking about leading life and leading people.